Have you ever stopped and asked yourself what you've been giving up just to keep someone else happy? Maybe it's your time, your dreams, or that quiet voice inside you that once believed anything was possible. We live in a world where we're told to be kind, to give, to care for others, and that's beautiful. But somewhere along the way, many forget that giving too much of yourself can slowly turn into losing yourself. You start saying yes when you want to say no. You start hiding your truth so others can shine. And before long, you wake up one day realizing you've become a version of yourself that doesn't even feel alive anymore. That's why this message matters. Because there are things in life that should never be sacrificed for anyone. No matter how much you love them, no matter how much you fear losing them, these are the foundations of your inner peace, your growth, and your identity. The moment you let them go, you stop living for yourself and start existing for others. And that's not love, that's self-erasure. You were not born to dim your light to make someone else comfortable. You were born to stand in your truth, to walk your path, to live with purpose. Many people confuse selflessness with self-betrayal. They think being kind means being silent when they're hurt. They think love means giving endlessly without limits. But real love, real respect, real strength, they don't ask you to lose your sense of who you are. In fact, the people who truly value you will never demand that you shrink. They will never ask you to give up your peace, your values, or your dreams to please them. They will walk beside you, not over you. They will support your journey, not rewrite it for their comfort. This message isn't about becoming selfish. It's about remembering balance. Because when you constantly sacrifice your own happiness, your own energy, your own voice, you start building silent resentment. You begin to feel invisible, and that pain eats at you slowly until it turns into exhaustion, anger, or numbness. The truth is, you can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give love if you've forgotten how to love yourself first. The strength to set boundaries isn't cold, it's courageous. It's the act of saying, I matter too. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop giving up what should never be surrendered, something shifts. You rediscover your confidence. You feel clarity returning to your life. You start walking taller, thinking clearer, living freer. You become someone who doesn't chase validation because you finally realize your worth doesn't depend on anyone's approval. You start leading your own life, not following someone else's expectations. And that's when peace enters. Not the kind that's quiet and fragile, but the kind that's strong and steady, the kind that stays. Stay until the end of this message, because we're going to uncover the 5 things you should never sacrifice for anyone. Each one is a truth that can change how you see yourself and how you live your life. These lessons come from the teachings of Heng, a master of discipline and inner strength. But more importantly, they come from the wisdom of experience, of falling, of rising, of realizing what truly matters. If you've ever felt drained from giving too much, or lost in trying to please everyone, this is your moment to take your power back, because you deserve to live a life that feels like your own again. The first thing you should never sacrifice for anyone is your peace of mind, because peace is not a luxury, it's your foundation. It's what allows you to think clearly, to feel centered, to move through life without being constantly pulled into storms that aren't yours. When you trade your peace to keep someone else calm, you are building chaos inside yourself. You begin to carry other people's problems as if they were your own, and slowly, the noise in your head becomes louder than your own thoughts. You stop hearing your intuition. You stop trusting yourself. And one day, you realize you've lost the quiet that once guided you. Your peace is sacred. It's the space between who you are and who the world tries to make you. It's where your strength grows. It's where you can breathe, reflect, and choose your next step with clarity instead of fear. People may call you distant when you protect it. They may say you've changed. But the truth is, protecting your peace doesn't make you cold. It makes you wise. Because not everyone deserves access to your energy. Not everyone is entitled to your time, your emotions, or your attention. You get to choose where your mind rests, and you get to say no to anything that steals your calm. Think about how much power is hidden in silence. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of control. When you stop reacting to everything that tries to provoke you, you take back your power. When you stop arguing to prove your worth, you remind yourself that peace is more valuable than being right. Real strength isn't loud. It's steady. It's the ability to stay calm in a room full of noise. It's the decision to walk away, not because you're weak, but because your inner world is too precious to hand over to chaos. There will be moments when people mistake your calm for indifference. Let them. The ones who truly see you will understand that peace doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care enough about yourself to not drown in other people's storms. You're not responsible for fixing everything. You're not required to absorb every emotion around you. You are allowed to create space between yourself and the noise. That space is where you heal. That space is where you grow. When you guard your peace, life starts to feel lighter. You notice beauty again. You feel present again. You stop rushing to please everyone, and instead, you start choosing what feels right for your soul. This is not selfishness. This is balance. Because peace is what keeps your energy clean, your heart open, and your mind focused. Without it, every success feels empty. Every goal feels distant. But with it, even the smallest moments become meaningful. If you've been feeling restless, like something is constantly pulling you off center, maybe it's because you've been giving your peace away too easily. It's time to bring it back home. Protect it like it's your most valuable possession, because it is. You don't need to explain why you distance yourself from chaos. You don't need to justify your boundaries. You just need to remember that peace is the soil where your purpose grows. Without it, nothing thrives. With it, everything begins to make sense again. The second thing you should never sacrifice for anyone is your self-respect. Because once you let someone make you forget your worth, you begin to hand them the power to define who you are. Respect is not about pride. It's about boundaries. It's the invisible line that tells the world how far they can go and how deeply they can touch your soul. When you let someone cross that line repeatedly, hoping they'll finally see your value, you start to lose the very essence of yourself. And nothing wounds the heart deeper than betraying your own dignity just to be accepted. You were not created to beg for love, attention, or validation. You were meant to walk with your head high, knowing that your presence carries value even when others fail to recognize it. Every time you tolerate disrespect, every time you stay silent when someone belittles you, you teach them that it's okay to treat you that way. But when you choose to walk away from what dishonors you, something powerful happens. You reclaim your self-respect, and with it, your freedom. Because real strength is not in how much you can endure, but in how much you refuse to tolerate when it costs your peace and dignity. There's a quiet confidence that comes from respecting yourself. It doesn't shout, it doesn't demand, it simply knows. It knows that you are not defined by who stays or who leaves. It knows that your value doesn't shrink when someone fails to see it. And it knows that protecting your self-respect is not arrogance, it's self-love in its purest form. The moment you stop chasing approval, you begin attracting people who match your energy, who value your presence, who respect your boundaries without needing to be reminded. Psychologically, this shift is transformative. When you hold on to your self-respect, your brain stops operating from fear and starts operating from strength. You stop asking, "Am I enough?" and start declaring, "I am." This simple change rewires how you move through the world. You stop settling for almost relationships, almost opportunities, almost dreams. You start walking with a quiet power that doesn't beg to be noticed. It commands recognition naturally, because respect begins within, and once it's rooted deeply, no one can take it from you. Many people lose themselves trying to prove their loyalty to those who never valued them to begin with. They keep giving second chances, hoping things will change. But every time you compromise your self-respect to keep someone close, you lose a little more of your inner strength. Love without respect is an illusion. It may look real, but it will always leave you feeling empty. True love, real connection, genuine friendship, they're all built on mutual respect. Without it, everything eventually collapses. So stand tall. Speak truth even when your voice shakes. Walk away when you're not valued. Don't let guilt convince you that setting boundaries is cruel. It's not cruelty, it's clarity. It's saying, I choose to honor myself first, because if I don't, no one else will. The moment you decide that your self-respect is non-negotiable, the world around you begins to shift. The wrong people drift away, the right ones draw near. And you begin to see that life isn't about being liked, it's about being aligned. You don't need to prove your worth, you only need to remember it. The third thing you should never sacrifice for anyone is your purpose, because without purpose, you drift. You wake up each day moving through routines that don't fulfill you, saying yes to things that don't excite you, and wondering quietly why your spirit feels so tired. Purpose is not just a dream or a career, it's the reason you get out of bed with meaning. It's the quiet fire inside that reminds you that your life matters, that your existence has weight, and that you were born for something more than survival. When you give up your purpose to please others, you extinguish that fire. You begin living by someone else's expectations, and little by little, your inner voice fades into silence. There's nothing more painful than knowing you have something powerful within you, but choosing to hide it so no one feels uncomfortable. You start postponing your goals, telling yourself there will be time later, that maybe it's not meant for you, that maybe people are right when they say it's impossible. But that's how dreams die. Not in one dramatic moment, but slowly, through hesitation, doubt, and compromise. And the truth is, people who love you should never ask you to abandon your purpose. They should walk beside you as you chase it, even when they don't fully understand it. Because real love doesn't hold you back. It lifts you higher. Psychologists have long said that a sense of purpose is one of the strongest predictors of happiness and mental resilience. It gives your life direction when everything else feels uncertain. It anchors your mind during storms. Without it, even comfort feels empty. But with it, even challenges feel meaningful. Your purpose is what turns pain into growth, setbacks into lessons, and fear into fuel. It's the reason some people keep standing after life knocks them down. It gives them something greater to rise for. The world will try to distract you from your purpose. It will whisper that stability is safer than passion, that blending in is easier than standing out. But safety without fulfillment is a slow form of dying. You weren't born to be average. You weren't meant to silence your gifts for acceptance. The longer you live in fear of judgment, the further you drift from the path that was meant for you. And the more you drift, the more your soul aches for what it knows it was created to do. Don't let that happen. Don't let anyone convince you that your dreams are too big or that your timing is wrong. The people who once doubted you will one day ask how you did it. But by then, you won't be chasing approval. You'll be living alignment. And that's what freedom feels like. Because once you choose your purpose over people-pleasing, life starts moving differently. You begin to attract opportunities that match your energy. You meet people who inspire rather than drain. You feel alive in a way comfort could never give you. You owe it to yourself to protect that purpose fiercely. Let no one guilt you into shrinking it. Let no fear convince you to postpone it. Every breath you take is a reminder that you still have time to live fully, to create, to contribute, to become everything you were meant to be. Don't trade that for temporary approval, because purpose is not just what you do, it's who you are becoming, and once you start living in alignment with it, you'll never need to chase fulfillment again. You'll be living it. The fourth thing you should never sacrifice for anyone is your integrity, because once you compromise your truth, even in small ways, you begin to drift away from yourself. Integrity is the alignment between what you believe, what you say, and what you do. It is the quiet promise you make to your own soul, to live with honesty, to stand for what's right, to act in a way that reflects who you truly are. When you betray that promise for acceptance, convenience, or fear, something inside you begins to crumble. You start feeling hollow, even when life looks fine on the surface. You start doubting your reflection, because deep down, you know you're not living as the person you were meant to be. Integrity doesn't need recognition. It doesn't need applause. It's not about appearing good. It's about being good when no one is watching. It's choosing truth even when lies seem easier. It's walking away from situations that demand you become someone you're not. And yes, it's hard, because integrity often costs something: opportunities, relationships, comfort. But losing those things is nothing compared to losing your peace of conscience. When you sacrifice integrity, you may win approval, but you lose authenticity. And no external validation can fill the emptiness that follows. The power of integrity lies in its consistency. When your actions match your words, you build self-trust. And that trust is everything. It's the foundation of confidence, the anchor of purpose, the core of resilience. People who live without integrity are always restless, always chasing validation to fill the gap of self-betrayal. But people who live with integrity move with calm strength. They know who they are, and that clarity protects them from manipulation and fear. They may walk alone sometimes, but they walk free. Psychologically, integrity is one of the deepest forms of self-respect. It's a declaration that says, I will not abandon my truth, even if it costs me approval. And that choice, repeated over time, creates unshakable inner stability. It's why some people stand tall in storms. They're rooted in something unbreakable. They don't bend with every opinion, and they don't sell their values for temporary comfort. That's what makes them magnetic. The world respects those who live by their principles, even if it doesn't always understand them. Life will test your integrity. It will present moments where doing the right thing feels like the hardest choice. You'll be tempted to stay quiet, to take shortcuts, to compromise just once. But every small act of integrity strengthens your character, and every act of compromise weakens it. The more you choose truth, the more peaceful your mind becomes. Because truth is light, and when you live in it, there's nothing left to hide from. Remember, your integrity is the foundation of your power. It's what makes your peace unshakable, your purpose unmovable, your confidence undeniable. It's the invisible armor that protects your spirit from corrosion. Don't trade it for comfort. Don't dilute it for acceptance. Don't silence it for fear. Because when you walk with integrity, you walk with freedom. You don't need to chase anything. You simply become someone who cannot be bought, who cannot be shaken, who cannot be lost. And that kind of person doesn't just live. They lead, they inspire, they awaken something in everyone they meet. The fifth thing you should never sacrifice for anyone is your authenticity. Because authenticity is the essence of your soul. It's the unfiltered truth of who you are before the world taught you who you should be. It's the voice that whispers in your heart when everything else around you is noise. The moment you start hiding that truth to fit in, you begin to lose the connection to yourself. You smile when you're hurting. You agree when you disagree. You shrink when you're meant to rise. You start wearing masks, and the more you wear them, the heavier they become. Eventually, you forget what your real face even looks like. We live in a world that constantly rewards imitation and punishes individuality. People are praised for blending in, not standing out. You're told to be yourself, but only if it's comfortable for everyone else. That's why authenticity feels rebellious. It challenges the expectations that others try to place on you. But deep inside, your spirit craves truth. It doesn't want perfection. It doesn't want performance. It wants alignment. It wants to live a life that feels real, not just one that looks good from the outside. When you abandon authenticity to please others, you start living a version of yourself that's always seeking permission. You begin to fear rejection so deeply that you reject yourself first. But authenticity demands courage, the courage to be seen, to be misunderstood, to be different. It means standing in your truth even when your voice trembles. It means owning your story, your scars, your imperfections, and still saying, "This is me." Because real strength isn't about being flawless, it's about being real in a world that tries to make you fake. Psychologically, authenticity is vital for mental and emotional well-being. When your actions and emotions align with your true values, your brain releases feelings of peace and satisfaction. But when you constantly pretend, when you act from fear or guilt, your mind experiences inner conflict. You start to feel anxious, restless, and unfulfilled. That's because you're living out of sync with your truth. The human soul can't thrive in disguise. You can wear the mask for a while, but eventually the weight of pretending will suffocate you. Authenticity attracts what's meant for you. When you're genuine, you naturally draw people who resonate with your truth and repel those who only value your facade. You stop chasing because the right connections, the right opportunities, the right love. They find you when you show up as you truly are. Pretending may get you attention, but authenticity gives you peace, and peace will always be more valuable than approval. There's a quiet power in being yourself. It's not loud or arrogant. It's grounded, calm, magnetic. You stop performing, you stop apologizing, you stop diluting your light. You realize that your uniqueness isn't something to hide, it's your greatest strength. The world doesn't need another copy. It needs your truth. It needs your presence. It needs your story told in your voice, not the one you think people want to hear. So never sacrifice your authenticity, not for love, not for belonging, not for comfort. Because the moment you abandon who you are, everything else you build loses meaning. You can achieve everything, but if you lose yourself along the way, it's never truly yours. Choose to live as the fullest version of yourself, not the edited one. Because the real you is enough, always has been, always will be. When you start living authentically, something profound happens. You stop living in resistance, you stop fighting yourself, and that quiet battle that once drained your spirit finally ends. You no longer need to prove your worth because you begin to feel it from within. You start to move differently, think differently, breathe differently. Life begins to flow, not because it becomes easier, but because you are no longer pretending. The energy you once wasted trying to be accepted is now fueling your growth, your peace, your evolution. And that shift changes everything. But authenticity also requires solitude. It's in the stillness that you rediscover who you are beneath the noise of the world. Most people fear being alone because silence exposes truth. It forces you to face yourself without distractions, without filters, without roles to hide behind. Yet that is exactly where you find your real power. Because when you learn to be comfortable in your own presence, you stop settling for company that costs your peace. You stop searching for validation because you finally see that you were whole all along. Loneliness transforms into alignment when you realize solitude is not emptiness, it's self-connection. Every person you meet will mirror something inside you. Some will reflect your strength, others your wounds. The way you respond reveals how deeply you know yourself. If you're always bending to please, if you're always afraid to speak truth, it means your inner compass has been silenced. But when you return to authenticity, that compass wakes up. It points you back to your center. It reminds you of what truly matters. You stop seeking external direction because your intuition becomes your guide. That's what authenticity gives you, the ability to navigate life with clarity, even when everything around you feels uncertain. This is where real confidence comes from, not from looks, achievements, or praise, but from living in harmony with your truth. Confidence built on external things can be shattered in an instant, but confidence built on authenticity is unshakable. You no longer need to chase approval when you're aligned with your values. You no longer need to wear masks when you trust your heart. And the world begins to respond to that energy in ways you can't imagine. Because nothing is more powerful than a person who knows who they are and lives it unapologetically. The beauty of authenticity is that it liberates others too. When you live honestly, you give people permission to do the same. You become a mirror of courage for those who are still afraid to show up as themselves. You start influencing not through perfection, but through presence. And that's the quiet kind of leadership the world needs more of. The kind that inspires without trying, that uplifts without forcing, that teaches simply by being. You become a living reminder that peace and power can coexist, that vulnerability and strength are not opposites, and that truth is the highest form of freedom. Every step you take toward authenticity deepens your connection to life itself. You begin to feel gratitude for the simple things, compassion for others, and love that isn't dependent on approval. You live lighter, freer, truer, and that's what life is supposed to feel like. Not a constant performance, but an honest experience of being fully alive. So keep choosing your truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. Because every time you do, you become more aligned, more powerful, and more at peace with who you are meant to be. The moment you begin to live in truth, you awaken something that cannot be faked, inner alignment. It's the quiet harmony between your heart and your actions, the sense that every step you take feels right, even if the world doesn't understand it. That feeling is the essence of freedom. Because when you live from your core, external chaos loses its power over you. People may come and go, opinions may change, circumstances may shift, but within you, there is stillness. You stop reacting to everything and start responding from clarity. You stop running from life and start walking with it. This alignment transforms how you see the world. You begin to recognize that peace is not something you chase. It's something you create from within. You stop waiting for the perfect moment because you realize every moment is a chance to live with purpose. You stop comparing your journey to others because their path has nothing to do with yours. That's when you finally breathe without pressure, love without fear, and work without needing recognition. You begin to move in rhythm with your truth, and that rhythm becomes unstoppable. But staying aligned requires awareness. Every day, distractions try to pull you away from yourself. Expectations, judgments, obligations, fears. The world will always try to convince you that your worth depends on how well you fit in. But fitting in often means fading away. So you must choose to remain conscious. You must remind yourself daily that peace, purpose, integrity, authenticity, these aren't just ideals, they're lifelines. They're what keep you grounded when life tests your strength. Without them, even success feels hollow. With them, even struggle becomes sacred. The psychology of alignment is simple yet powerful. When your actions reflect your values, your mind experiences coherence. You stop living in contradiction. You feel less anxiety, less resistance, less confusion. You begin to trust yourself again. That self-trust becomes your compass. It replaces doubt with direction, hesitation with confidence. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start saying, "Even if I fail, I'll be true to myself." That shift changes everything, because the goal of life was never to avoid falling. It was to stand each time with greater awareness. There's a calm strength that comes from knowing you no longer need to compromise your core for acceptance. You realize that peace is not found in pleasing everyone. It's found in honoring your own path. You stop apologizing for your boundaries. You stop dimming your voice. You stop chasing people who can't see your worth. Because the moment you become aligned, your energy speaks louder than words. You no longer beg to be seen. You radiate clarity that cannot be ignored. And this is the point where transformation becomes visible. You attract what mirrors your truth. You connect with people who understand your frequency, who respect your growth, who challenge you to rise, not shrink. Life begins to align around your energy. It feels like everything starts to fall into place. But in reality, it's you who finally fell into alignment. That's why peace feels natural now. That's why you no longer need to force outcomes or chase validation. The power you've been seeking was never outside of you. It was within, waiting for you to return. When you live in truth, when you protect your peace, your self-respect, your purpose, your integrity, and your authenticity, you become unstoppable. You become whole. You no longer need to search for meaning. You embody it. This is not just living, this is awakening. And once you awaken, you can never go back to sleep. The moment you awaken to who you truly are, you begin to understand that strength is not about control. It's about surrendering to truth. You stop fighting the natural rhythm of life and start trusting it. You realize that every challenge, every disappointment, every ending was not meant to break you, but to guide you closer to yourself. The struggles that once made you question your worth now reveal their purpose. They were refining you. They were teaching you how to stand firm without hardness, how to stay open without losing boundaries, how to walk alone without feeling lost. There's a quiet kind of power that grows from this awareness. It's not loud or aggressive. It's calm, centered, undeniable. It's the strength of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. The kind of person who doesn't chase, doesn't beg, doesn't perform. Because when you finally learn to value peace over approval, integrity over image, and truth over comfort, you stop living like a reaction and start living like intention. You become deliberate with your words, your energy, your presence. And that's where real transformation begins, when your outer world starts to mirror the stillness and certainty you've built within. Psychologically, this is the moment when alignment becomes empowerment. Your mind and emotions begin to work together instead of against each other. You start seeing rejection, not as a wound, but as redirection. You stop seeking closure from others because you've already found it within yourself. You understand that peace is not something people give you. It's a decision you make every day to stay true to your values no matter what. And with that decision, your confidence becomes grounded in something unshakable. This kind of strength radiates. It influences everything you touch. You begin to inspire others, not by preaching, but by existing as proof that wholeness is possible. Your calm becomes contagious. Your consistency becomes admirable. Your boundaries become lessons for those still learning how to love themselves. You don't need to convince anyone anymore. Your presence does that for you, because energy never lies. When you are aligned, people feel it. When you are authentic, they trust it. And when you live in integrity, you elevate everyone around you without even trying. But you must keep choosing this path. Growth doesn't happen once. It happens daily. It's in the moments when you choose silence over chaos, reflection over reaction, truth over approval. It's in the times you walk away not out of pride, but out of peace. Every time you honor your core, you strengthen the bond with your own soul. You stop being a stranger to yourself. You stop seeking meaning in places that only drain you. You begin to move with clarity, knowing that what's meant for you will always align with who you truly are. And when that realization settles in, fear starts to fade. You stop fearing loss because you know that anything real will never require you to betray yourself to keep it. You stop fearing judgment because you know opinions cannot touch your essence. You stop fearing failure because you understand that everything you experience is shaping the person you're becoming. You find courage not in perfection, but in presence. That's what it means to be truly alive, to live every moment connected to truth, guided by peace and grounded in purpose. When you reach that state, nothing outside of you has power over you anymore. You are free. Freedom is not found in escaping the world, but in no longer being controlled by it. It's when your peace no longer depends on circumstances, when your worth no longer wavers with someone's opinion, when your direction no longer shifts because of fear. That's true liberation. To exist in a world full of noise and remain anchored in silence, to walk through uncertainty with steady breath, to love without losing yourself. This kind of freedom doesn't arrive overnight. It's built slowly, through choices that honor your truth, through letting go of what was never yours, through forgiving yourself for the times you forgot your own power. Freedom is the natural result of alignment. When you no longer sacrifice peace, self-respect, purpose, integrity, or authenticity, you begin to experience life as it was meant to be lived. You stop surviving and start creating. You no longer live on autopilot, reacting to everything and everyone. You move with intention. You speak with clarity. You rest without guilt. You become present enough to feel life deeply, to notice beauty in the simplest things, to experience gratitude, not as a concept, but as a state of being. And that gratitude becomes fuel. It turns ordinary moments into sacred ones and pain into wisdom. The mind, when free, becomes a powerful ally. It no longer runs in circles of doubt or self-criticism. It focuses, it listens, it learns to serve your soul instead of your fears. Psychology teaches us that when the mind feels congruent, when your beliefs, emotions, and actions are aligned, it releases tension. You stop wasting energy pretending. You stop fighting yourself. That harmony produces a deep, lasting sense of satisfaction, not the fleeting rush that comes from external rewards, but the quiet fulfillment of knowing you are living as you were meant to. That's the kind of happiness that doesn't depend on winning, achieving, or impressing. It simply exists because you exist in truth. To live freely also means to accept change. Life will keep shifting. People will keep evolving. Seasons will keep turning. You can't control that, but you can control how you move through it. Instead of clinging, you flow. Instead of resisting, you learn. You understand that endings are not punishments, but passages. That letting go is not losing. It's opening space for what aligns better. And when you live with that mindset, nothing can truly break you. Pain may visit, but it doesn't own you. Fear may whisper, but it doesn't guide you. You remain centered, calm, unshaken. There's a kind of beauty that only freedom brings. It shows in the way you smile without effort, in the way you walk without hurry, in the way you speak without fear of judgment. You radiate light not because life is perfect, but because you are no longer dimming it for anyone. You start to notice how peace feels more valuable than attention, how stillness feels stronger than control, how being true feels better than being liked. And when you reach that point, everything about you changes. You stop needing to chase happiness because you've become the source of it. This is what the masters like Heng teach, the art of internal liberation, the understanding that the greatest strength is not found in dominance or resistance, but in harmony with yourself. When you master that, you master life. And once you've tasted this freedom, you'll never again accept a life that asks you to sacrifice your soul to fit in. You'll protect your peace fiercely, walk in purpose boldly, and live each day knowing that the most powerful thing you can ever be is yourself, fully and unapologetically. When you live with that kind of freedom, you begin to see life differently. You stop rushing toward the future or clinging to the past because you finally understand that everything you've been searching for is found in the present moment. Peace is now. Strength is now. Clarity is now. The world teaches you to chase happiness, but happiness isn't somewhere out there. It's already within you, waiting for you to slow down enough to feel it. The more you return to this awareness, the lighter everything becomes. Even your pain starts to soften because you realize it's not there to punish you, but to wake you up, to strip away what isn't you so that only truth remains. When you begin living this way, your energy changes. You no longer live from reaction. You live from response. You don't need to prove anything, control anyone, or compete with anything. You move through life with quiet confidence because you know your worth doesn't depend on circumstance. You stop fearing change because you understand that change is not the end, it's the bridge. The bridge to growth, to expansion, to deeper peace. When you stop fighting what's shifting, you begin to see how everything in life is conspiring to guide you closer to alignment. Every delay, every rejection, every detour, it was all part of your awakening. There's a profound psychological truth in this. What you resist persists. The more you cling to what's fading, the more you suffer. But when you let go, truly let go, your nervous system begins to regulate, your mind begins to quiet, and your intuition becomes louder. You start hearing the voice inside that always knew the way, the one that was drowned out by fear and noise. This is why surrender is not weakness, it's wisdom. It's the art of releasing control and trusting that the universe, life, God, whatever name you give it, knows how to lead you where you need to be. And as you surrender, gratitude blooms naturally. You start to appreciate what you once overlooked, the breath in your lungs, the peace of silence, the warmth of a sunrise. You realize that life isn't about collecting things or achievements, it's about awareness. It's about being awake enough to experience every moment fully, whether it's joy or pain, success or struggle. Because once you can be present with what is, without wishing it away or forcing it to change, you enter a state of liberation that nothing external can touch. That's where fulfillment lives, not in doing more, but in being more. This way of living transforms how you connect with others too. You stop expecting people to fill your emptiness because you're no longer empty. You stop trying to control how others see you because you're no longer seeking validation. You love more purely, more freely, because your love no longer comes from need, it comes from overflow. You give without losing yourself. You help without depleting yourself. You understand that real compassion begins with wholeness, not sacrifice. And when you reach this level of awareness, something inside you settles. You no longer wake up searching for meaning. You wake up living it. Every action becomes intentional. Every word carries presence. Every breath feels sacred. You realize you are not here to be perfect. You are here to be real. Not to impress the world, but to express your truth. And when you live like that, free, grounded, conscious, you become a light. Not because you try to shine, but because truth always glows naturally through those who have remembered who they are.